Summary of You Are Not So Smart by David McRaney. David McRaney's You Are Not So Smart is a thought-provoking exploration into the ways our minds deceive us. The book delves into cognitive biases, logical fallacies, and the quirks of human reasoning that shape how we perceive the world, make decisions, and form beliefs. Through engaging stories and accessible language, McRaney highlights how often our thoughts, beliefs, and judgments are flawed, leading us to be less rational than we might assume. The central premise of the book is that we are not as smart or objective as we think we are, and that our minds are continuously working against us in subtle ways. Chapter 1. Cognitive Biases. The first chapter introduces the concept of cognitive biases, systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality in judgment. McRaney explains how these biases arise from the brain's need to simplify complex information and make quick decisions, often based on incomplete or inaccurate data. One example he gives is the confirmation bias, where people favor information that confirms their existing beliefs, even if it's flawed or insufficient. This bias can lead us to make decisions that reinforce our preconceptions rather than challenge them. Another important bias discussed is anchoring, which occurs when people rely too heavily on the first piece of information they encounter when making decisions. For instance, if you see a product priced at $100 and then find the same product for $80, you might perceive the second price as a great deal, even if $80 is still overpriced compared to its actual value. This demonstrates how our brains rely on anchors to judge the value of things, even when those anchors are arbitrary. Chapter 2. The Illusion of Control. In this chapter, McRaney explores how people often overestimate their ability to control or influence events, a phenomenon known as the illusion of control. He uses the example of gamblers who believe they can influence the outcome of dice rolls or slot machines through superstition, even though these outcomes are entirely random. This illusion can also affect everyday decision-making, such as when people believe they can prevent accidents or outcomes by merely being cautious or performing certain rituals. In reality, many aspects of our lives are beyond our control, and acknowledging this can lead to a more balanced perspective. Chapter 3. Cognitive Dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is another powerful psychological concept McRaney discusses. This theory, introduced by psychologist Leon Festinger, explains how we experience mental discomfort when our beliefs or behaviors conflict with each other. To resolve this discomfort, people tend to change their beliefs or justify their actions, even in the face of contrary evidence. For example, if someone is confronted with evidence that smoking is harmful, but they are a smoker, they may rationalize their behavior by downplaying the risks or convincing themselves that they have control over the outcome. Cognitive dissonance plays a major role in how people defend their biases and make decisions, even when presented with compelling evidence to the contrary. Chapter 4. The Backfire Effect. One of the most fascinating cognitive biases explored in the book is the backfire effect. McRaney explains that when people are presented with information that contradicts their beliefs rather than updating their views, they often become more entrenched in their original beliefs. This counterproductive effect happens because the brain reacts emotionally to information that threatens deeply held convictions. People may reject factual evidence and even reinforce their pre-existing ideas, making it difficult for them to change their views, no matter how logical the new information might seem. This phenomenon is especially relevant in the context of politics and social media, where people are exposed to echo chambers that reinforce their biases, making it even harder for rational discourse to take place. The backfire effect illustrates how our brains are wired not just to seek out information that supports our beliefs, but to cling to those beliefs when they are challenged. Chapter 5. The Fallacy of Self-Perception. McRaney also discusses the fallacy of self-perception, or the idea that we are not fully aware of why we make the decisions we do. According to psychological studies, people often believe that they are acting out of rational thought and conscious intent, but many of our actions are driven by unconscious biases and influences. For example, people may think that they are making a rational decision when buying a car, but in reality, their choice could be heavily influenced by factors like brand recognition, emotional appeal, or the opinions of friends and family. The book delves into the complexity of how we perceive ourselves and how external factors influence our actions without us even realizing it. McRaney suggests that becoming more aware of these unconscious drivers can help us make better, more informed decisions, rather than relying on what we believe to be objective or rational reasoning. Chapter 6. The Illusion of the Expert. One of the key insights of You Are Not So Smart is the way people overestimate their expertise and the expertise of others. This is explored through the concept of the illusory superiority effect, where individuals believe they are more competent, intelligent, or skilled than they actually are. McRaney discusses how this illusion extends to experts in various fields, from economics to health to psychology. Even highly educated individuals can fall prey to this bias, leading them to make overconfident predictions or decisions based on faulty assumptions. This illusion is compounded by the fact that people tend to trust the opinions of so-called experts, even when those experts are wrong or have conflicting views. McRaney uses the example of medical advice to highlight how people often defer to the opinions of doctors or scientists without questioning them, sometimes even when those experts are influenced by outside forces like corporate sponsorships or personal biases. Chapter 7. The Importance of Perspective. In the final chapters of the book, McRaney emphasizes the importance of perspective. He argues that our minds are limited by the lens through which we view the world, and by recognizing the biases that shape our perceptions, we can develop a more nuanced and accurate understanding of reality. He encourages readers to question their beliefs, challenge their assumptions, and remain open to new information. While McRaney emphasizes the pervasiveness of cognitive biases, he also offers hope. Through self-awareness and critical thinking, we can mitigate their impact on our decision-making. By recognizing that we're not as smart or objective as we might think, we can become more humble in our reasoning and more empathetic toward others with differing views. Conclusion. You Are Not So Smart is an engaging and enlightening book that sheds light on the many cognitive biases and mental shortcuts that shape our perceptions, judgments, and decisions. Through humor, storytelling, and insightful research, McRaney reveals the ways in which our brains deceive us and the importance of understanding these mental pitfalls. While the book underscores how often we fall victim to flawed thinking, it also encourages readers to be more aware of their cognitive biases and to approach the world with a healthier dose of skepticism. Ultimately, McRaney's message is clear. We are not as rational or as in control of our thoughts as we believe, but by recognizing this, we can become more thoughtful, open-minded, and self-aware individuals,